Welcome back. Thank you for staying with Kenya's fastest growing television. Let's get to more news. And President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza administration will tomorrow mark 100 days in office since he was sworn into office as the country's fifth president. Elected by millions of hustlers with huge expectations to free them from the yoke of economic burden, President Ruto engineered himself as an agent of change, making key pledges, some of which he has accomplished and some which have failed the test. Our senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau explores the hits and misses.
His August 9, 2022 presidential election campaigns and his subsequent victory carried the hopes of millions of hustlers, pegging their hopes of economic liberation on a man who identified himself as one of their own, the hustler-in-chief. To appease the hustler nation, President Ruto unveiled the plan, his manifesto, which laid the basis of his inauguration speech on the 13th of September at Kasarani, where he made a windfall of promises.
To further demonstrate my commitment to the independence of the judiciary, this afternoon I will appoint the 6 judges already nominated for appointment to the Court of Appeal, which was done 3 years ago by the Judicial Service Commission.
To show he meant business, the swearing-in of 6 Court of Appeal judges, rejected by his predecessor, President Uhuru Kenyatta, in 2019, promised and executed the following day.
The contract between Ruto and the hustlers in phase 1 has been delivered.
Well, he has done his best, and he seems to be in a hurry to accomplish things. Whether he does it or not is another matter, but image is also good. He is in a hurry to do things. Those he cannot accomplish can be explained by structural challenges, issues that come up that may not be said to be his doing. It is the environment or the circumstances under which he is operating.
You might want to give him time. One, because the challenges are too much. I also believe that these people did not expect what they have found. In terms of, they didn't know that running government was this difficult. So they are still finding their space. They are still learning the ropes that they put it. So you might need to give them some little time. But there's a danger that the things could get out of control. So you need also a constant reminder to them so that they do not slip.
Giving the National Police Service budgetary autonomy under the control of the Inspector General of Police, taking away that mandate from the Interior Ministry. The restoration of port operations and cargo clearance back to Mombasa Port, a departure from his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta, who preferred Naivasha Inland Port to finance the SGR loan.
We have already made arrangements to make 1.4 million bags of fertilizer available at Kenya shillings 3,500 for a 50-kilogram bag, down from the current 6,500.
Taming the cost of living through the reduction of fertilizer prices is expected to lower food prices in due course, topping his speech with a sense of urgency, and which he has implemented.
As somebody who has been in government, most governments within the first 100 days will be looking at the policy changes that they would be putting in place, which would be maybe legal or to some extent facilitative. All right? For instance, if you're going to launch the Hustler Fund, you're setting up a fund, what are the policies, what are the legal framework, and then is there anything that requires parliamentary approval, and then you move it forward. But if we don't do that, you will get people thinking that in the first 100 days you have to build roads. And yet there is also a procurement process that requires tender advertising, whatever, before you get to a contractor going into a site.
3 months later, it has not been a rosy affair. It's been a mixed bag of fortunes, some promises met, while others not yet, or some in the pipeline. The opposition, Azimio, warned the president to brace for New Year protests on the high cost of living, saying the president has failed to lower maize flour and fuel prices.
Wakatoa subsidy ya chakula, wakatoa subsidy ya mafuta, baba watu wako wanaumia na wanasema wewe tupatie mwelekeo.
Tulikuwa tunangoja tuone jamaa alisema tutafanya hii ndani ya siku 100. Siku ile nitaweka Biblia chini, hii itafanyika. Mwaka mpya ikifika tutanyosha nyinyi mwelekeo, njia ile ambayo itakuwa njia ya ukombozi.
The president has not achieved what he promised during the campaign. Because at the core of the promise was the cost of living, beginning with the tangibles, the price of maize flour, unga, and of course fuel and the rest of those things. Nothing has happened. If anything, things are getting out of control. So to the extent that he hasn't delivered that, then you can say he has not achieved his promises. But you may not just judge him on the basis of that. Even keeping government afloat for this long is not a simple matter. That Kenya is still afloat is a plus on his part. Yeah.
The outgoing administration has left us in a scenario where 60% of our revenues is going to pay debt. What KRA is collecting, 60% is going back to pay debt. So just put that in perspective. That's why when we say that these are not quick fixes, this is going to be a protracted process, incremental, for us to turn the tide.
1 year, you can easily know that which direction the president is going to take, or the Kenya Kwanza administration is going to take this country. And the good thing we have as our president is somebody who normally involves the leaders. We have never, I think, if I may say, I don't think there's been any administration whereby you find within a given time of election like this, 90 days or 100 days, you find the president calling members of parliament from the leadership of the region or some given regions, come we talk, give me your issues, you have these challenges. Is that kind of a president? I was not expecting him to call us like, come, we have a cup of tea, something like that. And you know, that cup of tea is not just a cup of tea. It is about talking about how we are going to put forward this country. What are the challenges we are having in our constituencies, our counties? And those are the things we say, please prioritize. Give me the things you want us to look into it.
For the 100 days of Ruto's administration, I would say he has superseded the expectation of Kenyans. One of the deliverables on the first 100 days is to have a concrete plan on how the price of goods can come down. The price of essential commodities can come down. And we said the route to go is not subsidize unga, is not subsidize mafuta, is not subsidize fuel. The way to go is to ensure that we are able to empower our farmers. They can be able to grow more food, which can be affordable to everybody. And as you know, we have started the program of rolling out fertilizer.
Also met is the launch of the much contested 50 billion shillings Hustler Fund late last month, with an estimated borrowing of 9.5 billion shillings recorded so far. Lack of clarity in the management of the fund and its legality has been questioned.
Hustler Fund. Here of the fund, ati unapewa shilingi 500. 500 naweza kuanzisha biashara aina gani?
Hii 50 billion ya Kenya kwisha. Tunataka tujue zimetoka wapi. Treasury haijaidhinisha. You have a duty to explain to this country. Hizi pesa mmezitoa wapi?
He's tried something called the Hustler Fund. The attempt is good. The application is problematic. And people are complaining about the application and the modalities of it and whether it is legal or not. At least the application, since there was a supervising board or somewhere that was supposed to be in place before. So is it being done wrongfully or illegally? Because there's nothing wrong with the Hustler Fund as a concept. But is it being done the proper way?
Like the Hustler Fund, you know, something that doesn't make sense. You are in a hurry to do it, to prove you are doing something. Because you are incapable of doing the bigger things you promised to do. And for that reason, and then you engage in unnecessary activities or things that present you as somebody who is out to revenge. You know, things which a more seasoned leader would forget about, would not pursue. Like when people are pursuing these commissioners, the 4 commissioners, people can only see revenge in it. Those are things you forget because there are bigger things you are supposed to attend to, which you are not attending to.
The Hustler Fund, which all of you expected not to work. You thought that is where the failure will start from. But it has massively and unexpectedly been delivered, and now it is in the hands of Kenyans. And this is a process that is going to continue and be there, and it is our expectation that if not tripled the funds by next year, it will be doubled.
On the weaponization of state institutions like the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions ODPP, and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC, the state has withdrawn high-profile graft cases perceived as politically instigated. A 7.9 billion shillings case facing his deputy Rigathi Gachagua was withdrawn amid eyebrows. Assigning his deputy Rigathi Gachagua and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi roles was also a key promise that he has achieved, while his pledge to reform the judiciary, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations is still pending.
First cabinet meeting.
But there have been shortcomings on the way. Some of the promises, like reserving 50% of cabinet slots to women, despite creating a women's agency with an advisory role, has not been met. County governors are also up in arms on timely disbursement of county funds. Automating revenue collection is also not yet done. Zero-rate credit and a policy to regularize hawking is lacking too. During his first address before a joint sitting of Parliament in September, the President promised to lead a 300 billion shillings expenditure cut across all ministries. No outcome has been reported on the directive. President William Ruto's 100 days in office have also not been without contestation. A section of his cabinet was criticized for failing to meet the integrity threshold. Among them, Aisha Jumwa, Mithika Linturi, and Professor Juguna Ndungu, while the competence of some cabinet secretaries was also questioned. His 51 principal secretaries nominees were also taken to court for failing to meet gender and regional balance.
What I would have naturally expected a very serious cabinet. What did we get? A cabinet that was not inspiring at all. A cabinet, if anything, that told Kenyans this is going to be business as usual. And Kenyans have always believed that one of the things you are going to do, if you are going to deliver this country, is to deal with corruption. By bringing those kind of people, many of those people on board, you cannot convince any reasonable Kenyan that you have any intention, leave alone capacity, of dealing with corruption.
There is a challenge that occurs when somebody is in power, and that is to surround himself with sycophants people who will not tell him that something is wrong, even when they can see something is wrong. Because power attracts fear. At least those people surrounding the boss, they don't want to say something that would annoy him. And therefore, he sometimes will not get the true picture. So the encouragement of people to raise questions is a positive thing.
Ruto's about turn to amend the constitution has also drawn criticism from the Law Society of Kenya and the opposition, given his opposition to constitution change during the election campaigns. His push to amend the constitution through a parliamentary initiative to create the office of the official opposition leader has been termed as illegal and a shortcut to subvert the will of the people instead of through a referendum. His predecessor, President Uhuru's BBI project, was annulled by the court for following a similar process.
Ruto does not need to contain Raila. Raila needs to be contained by the constitution. Ruto will not spend time to deal with Raila. The law and the constitution that he participated in making will tell him what he needs to do and how he is supposed to behave.
If Raila wants to be contained, he will be contained. And one way of Raila wanting to be contained is by falling for such things. As this thing, cheap thing of official leader of the opposition. If they fall for it, if they begin to fight for it with the Kinakalons and the rest, and Mother Karua and Raila, then they will not contain Ruto.
The attempted amendment to the constitution to create positions that seem to be tailor-made for individuals is a terrible thing to do. And one of the problems with Kenya is that we are very good at amending the constitutions or making constitution to fit certain individuals. And this seems to be one of the cases. Now, what is the effect of that? One is a handshake, backdoor handshake.
The president's dilemma in the past 100 days has been the economy, a high public debt eating into 67% of the country's revenues, and a high inflation rate starting at 9.5%, leaving little room for development and social welfare programs.
What will set the base is the issue of finances. You know, you must have heard the president and the deputy president talking about we were left with empty coffers. You know, the last administration, because I think after the campaign, on the campaign trail, I think they tried to use all the finances which was in treasury. It was hardly, I understand the treasury didn't have any funds. That is why you are seeing the president, even as we are talking now, is in America. And he has been moving around, trying to convince the donors to chip in and assist the government by funding so many projects.
100 days are not enough to say that. Yeah, of course, the honeymoon is not as Hanish as before. But you give them a time, about a year. I think it will be justifiable after 1 or so years for people to raise serious questions.
It remains to be seen how he navigates the debt crisis and lowering the cost of living in his first year in power. Apul Kamau, TV